Bitcoin has closed a weekly candle above the Gaussian channel weekly upper band and now testing the 14-day midline. Will Bitcoin continue through this major $30,000 resistance, or are we going to see a correction? Let's dive into the charts. Okay guys, welcome back to the channel. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you're all having a fantastic day today. Bitcoin has just closed another weekly candle, and in today's video we're going to be discussing exactly what this means and everything you need to know surrounding this weekly candle close. We're going to be doing a complete technical and structural analysis across multiple time frames, bring up a wide variety of different indicators, and even discussing Bitcoin dominance. Before we get into it, smash that like button, hit that comment button, and subscribe to the channel. We post daily videos for Bitcoin focusing on the facts, the data, the technical and structural information, and of course, the relevant economic news. No hype, no BS, no emotion, pure raw TA. If that is the kind of content you are interested in, join us on Telegram. It is the third link down below. You will get access to charts, updates, videos, educational posts, news events, and everything you need to stay in the loop of cryptocurrency with Bitcoin and the relevant economic news. If you are interested in the VIP channel, we post trading signals with exact entries, exact targets, exact stop losses, trade justification, and exclusive analysis. You'll also get access to our group chats, our general chat, our trading chart and education chat, our trade setup chat, our news and daily video chat, and of course, our help chat. If you're interested in joining over 600 members in the VIP channel, go ahead and contact me. It's in the pinned comment. You can find out more information and our entire trading track record right over here. Let's dive into the video, guys. And like we said, a pretty important day for Bitcoin as we have had that weekly candle close. We'll get into the nitty and gritty about what it means, why it's important, and of course, the bullish and bearish perspectives about it in today's video. But starting on the market data, negative 2.41% for the 24-hour volume. We're sitting at a total of 54 billion. Overall, 24-hour liquidations are down 1.68%, sitting at a total of 70 million. Looking at those liquidations, we can see very evenly cut between shorts and longs. And this is nothing too unexpected as we move into the weekend, or as we have weekend price action. Generally, the weekend is a little bit more choppy, a little bit more indecisive. As we saw, Bitcoin has really just been pushing sideways ever since that $30,000 retest. So over the weekend, we've had a few drops toward the downside, a few short-term pumps toward the top side, but more or less just pushing sideways. And with this indecision in the market, coupled with a lack of volume, we do generally see shorts and longs both get liquidated. Moving over to that data again, we can take a look at our volatility index. The 30 and the 60-day period, again, not too much change over here. We are starting to see a little bit more of a plateau on the 30. And on the 60-day, we are still a little bit worried about this, as volatility on the 60 is still starting to fall. Now, this is a concern. We definitely want to see that volatility start to rise on the 60, as volatility is one of the components of strength of price action. When we see a lack of volatility, we generally see a lack of momentum, and that can signify exhaustion in the trend. And of course, we do want to see that volatility pick up, as we definitely want to see Bitcoin perform well and continue through that major $32,000 resistance. But we have to remain objective, and with this falling volatility, this is one of the arguments the bears could make to say this is exhausting. The price action is moving up, but it is kind of losing strength as it's doing so. We'll get into the other arguments in today's video. Moving over to the broader markets, the DXY has opened up green. Again, we do have to wait and see as the candle closes. While we remain underneath this downtrending diagonal resistance, this one over here, we are technically in a downtrend. The trend angle is about 45 degrees. It's not a very steep downtrend, but it is a downtrend nevertheless. If we break above this level, that could be very bearish for Bitcoin and more bearish for the stock market. So definitely watch out for a break over here, as we are looking at Bitcoin right now at a major level of resistance. Of course, the $30,000 psychological resistance is not only a psychological resistance, but it's a key level of resistance on the high time frame. So we're definitely watching out for any signs of potential reversals coming for Bitcoin. And of course, the DXY may be leading for that one. Looking at the DXY further, if we do see that break upwards, we are targeting 108 for the DXY. And of course, if we do continue downwards, we are looking at that 50 EMA, and we are looking at 104.4. Of course, if we do get that correction on the DXY, that will be relatively that would be relatively bullish for Bitcoin. It'd be relatively bullish for the stock market. But if we do that pump, get that pump, that could be potentially bearish. So definitely watch out for that. Now, of course, we do have upcoming economic data that you do have to be paying attention to, but we'll jump into that in another video and post that on Telegram. Moving over to the S&P 500, we have seen that weekly candle close not only under the uptrending trend line, but of course under the 50 EMA, so it's not looking particularly good over here. However, we do have a pretty high time frame daily support sitting at around this 4,200 level. We still are expecting a move down to 4,200 before we see a positive reaction or a breakdown and continuation lower. Again, this will be heavily determined by the upcoming economic news and of course the DXY's actions. Moving over to the Dow Jones. Very similar thing over here, guys. We had that weekly candle close looking pretty low over here, but it is retesting this high time frame level of support. If we do lose this local low point, we are looking for a continuation lower. Until then, guys, support is support until it's not, and you should be expecting bounces when we are at support. Again, for the price to really start gaining strength, we need to break above this local high point at 34,131 to push any higher. Until then, the downtrend is active. DXY, the Dow Jones is very much in a downtrend. Without further ado, let's dive into Bitcoin. And I wanted to briefly interrupt today's video to discuss the two exchanges we use on this channel, Bitget and BingX. So which exchange should you sign up to? If you look to the right hand side of the screen, you're going to see the list of differences in relation to KYC requirements and the countries these exchanges offer services to. The first link down below being the Bitget link, and the second link down below being the BingX link. No matter which link you sign up to, you're going to get up to 15% discounts on your trading fees, up to $5,000 in trading rewards, and of course, you'll get access to every single MegaWhale exclusive bonus campaign we run on these exchanges. Alongside that, Bitget and BingX are incredibly similar. They are both ranked top 10 in terms of trading volume. They both have extensive liquidity pools and market pairs offering up to 125x leverage. And most importantly, they both offer protection funds for their users to protect you against any third-party hacks. So get started now and support the channel by clicking the links below. Thanks for listening. I think the most important thing we start off with is the big thing, which is that weekly candle close. And the weekly candle close is really odd because on one hand, we have some really, really bullish things occurring. And on the other hand, we've closed under 30,000. So we need to talk about, which one's more important. And then we need to kind of weigh up and decide how we can actually go ahead about tackling and trading this market. So looking at the weekly candle from a technical perspective, first and foremost, and then we'll go to a structural perspective. From a technical perspective, the weekly candle close was very bullish. And in fact, from a technical perspective, the weekly chart is bullish while we remain above this 50 EMA. If we look at our overall drivers of strength over here, or should we say our technical drivers of strength from the weekly perspective, we have, of course, our 50 EMA, okay? We have the bull market support band, and we have the Gaussian channel, okay, upper band. We have got the 50 EMA ticked off. We're above that. We're above the bull market support band, and now we have closed the weekly candle above the Gaussian channel upper band. So we've ticked all of these off. These go ahead and suggest strength. When we're above all of these, it suggests not only do we have strength, but we are in a weekly uptrend. So right now, according to this weekly candle close, Bitcoin is officially in a weekly uptrend. For the weekly uptrend to be lost, we will have to fall back below all three of these levels. The main one being that lower level this time. So the 50 sitting at 26 or 27,000. If we go to a structural chart, we can see when do we lose the uptrend? Well, we lose the uptrend when we break below this uptrending diagonal trend line. If we take a vertical line right down, that takes us to a price point of around 27,000, which matches up with what the weekly technical chart is suggesting. So if we're talking about the higher time frame, really quickly, just broadly, Bitcoin is in a weekly uptrend while it remains above this uptrending diagonal trend line. However, that doesn't necessarily mean this is looking strong. We've seen a lot of strength, but we're pushing up into resistance. If we go back to this chart and we say, well, how are we looking right at this moment? if we bring the 14-day chart up, what we can see is we're retesting and we fail to close above the midline of the Gaussian channel on the 14-day chart. Now, as you know, the Gaussian channel is a phenomenal tool at predicting overall market movements, particularly on high time frames. When we generally see a break through the midline, and we can go down to a smaller time frame to show you more examples of this. Let's go to a weekly chart. When we break through the midline after traveling below us, when we're below it, we break into it. This break over here, this break into the channel signifies a shift from a downtrend to a uptrend, okay? Just like if we shift from here, a break from above into signifies a shift from a uptrend to a downtrend, okay? So we're into an uptrend on the 14-day chart, on the weekly chart. The midline break indicates a greater probability that we push through the channel. So you can see every time we end up breaking through that midline, we generally continue through the channel to break above the upper band. You can see over here again, when we break through that midline, we generally continue through the channel to retest and break above the upper band. If we go down to an even smaller time frame chart, we can see this pattern plays out time and time again, okay? We break in, we lose the uptrend, we break the midline, we push below it. We break up, we gain the uptrend, we break through a midline, we gain strength, we push above it. The pattern repeats and repeats. There's a very high probability of success. If you move over to the 14-day chart, we can say now if we are able to close this 14-day candle above that Gaussian channel midline, that is going to signify a very high probable chance that we continue through the upper band of the Gaussian channel on the 14-day chart. So this chart here is bullish and it's bearish, which is telling us if we get that close a little bit higher, well, that's going to indicate we're likely going to close that monthly candle above our high time frame resistance. And this chart is going to tell us with confidence that we're probably going to continue upwards past 38K. If we move over to our monthly chart and we take a look at this chart over here and we say, well, if we get a monthly close above this horizontal red line, okay, which is going to be this low point, okay, as we've seen in prior cycles, and we get that monthly candle close, where do we end up moving to? The dotted trend line, which is a dead cat bounce high of the prior bear cycle, okay? The dead cat bounce high of the prior bear cycle. To trigger that continuation, we need a monthly candle close above that horizontal line. So to trigger that continuation, we need a monthly candle close above that horizontal line. If we get that, we continue upwards. So what is this chart saying? This chart is saying, well, if we go ahead and input that horizontal line, it's sitting around 32,000 over here. In 7 days' time, if we get that monthly candle close above this level, we would have already broken above the midline, and that would again validate the hypothesis that we were going to follow the trajectory of price action we've seen in the past, which is we were going to see a continuation upwards to break above the Gaussian channel upper band on the monthly. So, from a short-term perspective, the weekly candle close is looking good. From a monthly perspective, it's not quite there yet, but it is shaping up to be successful. And that's kind of the narrative I want to build. From a short-term perspective, from a weekly perspective, it was an excellent month for the candle close. From a daily perspective, we didn't close above 30,000. That could be a problem. We'll talk about it in a second. And from a 14-day, from a higher time frame perspective, it's looking good, but we do need to get a little bit higher to really tick it off and continue upwards. So all in all, we're building strength, we're developing strength, we're creating this trend, and we're very, very, very close to that tipping point where we can say Bitcoin is officially in a macro uptrend, but we're not quite there yet. We're almost there, but we're not quite there. Until we get there, we have to consider possibilities of rejections and continuations downwards. So let's talk about now on the high time frame what those rejections and continuations downwards could develop from, where they could likely go, and then we'll get into the smaller time frame price action, such as the daily and short term. So as we've said already, guys, one of the most important things for us to see a high time frame continuation upwards is going to be that monthly candle close above 32,000. Until we get that, we're not going to see a macro continuation upwards, right? We're not going to see it. You have to break above that level to see a continuation on a higher time frame. So that could be delayed for weeks. It could happen this month, or it could be delayed for 2 or 3 more months. It doesn't matter when it happens, we are looking for that. So from a high time frame perspective, that is what we're looking for. If we at some point fail to get above that point, but in fact break under 25.2, which is the 50 EMA on the monthly chart, that will spell disaster for Bitcoin, okay? Moving over back to this chart. If we, on the weekly chart, break underneath, as we said at the start of the video, break back underneath the midline of the Gaussian channel. As we said, midlines confirm breakdowns. If we break under the midline, which is sitting at 24.4, we are very likely to continue through the midline toward the downside. So going back to the structural chart, if we take a look at these key levels, we of course have the 25.2 to 24.4k support. We have our high time frame range, which is a horizontal range between 32,000 and this level. And therefore, we cannot say we're continuing through this level until we get that breakout to push us higher. And we cannot say we're continuing down below this level until we get that breakdown to push us lower. So right now we are in a horizontal channel, and we do have to be aware that these horizontal channels, although are shaping up now to look more bullish, and from a macro perspective are starting to look more bullish, there is still a possibility that we do get these reversals and push the price downwards. Now, if you have been following the channel, guys, you would know, okay, you would know we have played Bitcoin pretty much perfectly. If you bought when we first bought Bitcoin, which was all the way back at $18,000, right on this drop over here, and then we accumulated our majority of Bitcoin within this range, actual average price 16,500, you will be holding, you will be happy, okay? If you follow what I did, personally, if you did exactly what I did, you would have bought over here, you would have sold over here, you would have bought in this range, you would have sold Bitcoin at 31,400, you would have long Bitcoin over here, and you would have shorted Bitcoin over here, re-entering longs back down at 25.2k. I actually shorted at 28.4k, didn't think we were going to break out, but we did break out, but it doesn't matter, we took longs and we profited anyway. So we've played Bitcoin perfectly. If you're still in your long, it's still in your spot positions, I would consider holding your spot positions. There's no reason to sell off your spot positions right now until we either get a breakdown 24.4k or a breakdown 25.2k, because we do have that potential to break that monthly chart and continue much higher. So definitely pay attention to that. But let's go ahead, guys, and discuss the short term. So with all the bullishness that is going on the high time frame, we have to understand this. There's one thing we have to understand. As the high time frame starts to look more and more bullish, the short term is got a greater probability of coming to a local top. Okay, I'm going to say it again. As the high time frame technicals are starting to look more and more bullish, the short-term probability that the trend has, or the move has already been completed, becomes greater and greater, because the macro charts are significantly lagging to the short term. So just because we see all these bullish signs on the weekly, it doesn't necessarily mean the price action is going to immediately push back up. We could see a retracement first and then a continuation upwards. And that is why I'm saying that Bitcoin could theoretically come all the way back down to retest this level and push back up, and the weekly charts are still going to look good. Okay, it's only if we start to lose this trend line when things are going to start to look sour. Okay, so on the short term, we are actually seeing some weakness, right? We are seeing some weakness. Let's go down to a 2-hour chart. If we take a look at this 2-hour chart, we can, well, maybe let's go to a 4-hour chart to start off with. We can see on the 4-hour chart, right, we have some very, very clear divergences playing out over here. We have some very clear bearish divergences on the smaller time frame. Even if we go down to let's go to a 12-hour chart, we can see we're seeing curvature in the market cypher B. Okay, we're seeing the red dot print, which is signifying a momentum shift. It's telling us momentum has shifted from strong positive to weakening positive. So we're seeing weakening positive momentum here at the $30,000 resistance. Okay, if we go down to such as a 1-hour chart, we can see that we're starting to see bearish divergences play out as the price action pushes slightly higher and the momentum falls. So we're starting to see some weakness develop here at that $30,000 resistance, and therefore we could see a pullback. And of course, if we lose that 1-hour 50 EMA, that in my eyes is going to be the confirmation that we do see that correction. Where could a correction take us? Let's go back to the hourly chart. So again, I'll say it again, if we lose that 50 EMA, guys, that is likely going to be the confirmation of a correction. Where will a correction take us? Well, let's take a look, guys. Like we said in yesterday's video, we're looking for the gap. So looking for the 29.4, okay? This gap over here, again, the gap represents the low range of this area, okay? We're looking for a retest of that point, a loss of that point. We're looking for then a gap between around 29,000, okay? Which is going to be this local high point. And then we're pushing into the POC and major structural support. So I'll say it again. everything is looking good, but the short term is something you should be concerned about because we are starting to see exhaustion at a major level of resistance. And as you know, resistance is resistance until it's not, and we could see a pullback. So zoom out, 14-day, monthly, looking great. But we're starting to see exhaustion. Maybe consider taking profits on your longs. Maybe consider taking a couple shorts. If you want to take some longs on altcoins, set your stop losses quite low. Look at the higher time frame. Trade a higher time frame. Don't look for scalps right now. Trade a higher time frame. Going over to altcoins, Bitcoin dominance does have the potential here to nuke, right? We are seeing, again, a bearish divergence here. At resistance, we could see Bitcoin dominance drop all the way back down to this 48 to 49% range. If we do see that correction on Bitcoin dominance, we will see altcoins outperform Bitcoin on the short term, and we could see some altcoins rally aggressively even though Bitcoin is pulling back. So keep that in mind, guys. Thank you for watching. I'll catch you guys in the next video. Cheers.